What is love? Love, a word that triggers a flood of emotions in each of us. It is the stuff from which songs are sung, poems are written, and hearts are broken. But what is love really? Is it the butterflies in our stomach that we get when we see someone for the first time? Or is it the silent, invisible bond that keeps two people together for years? Maybe it is both, or something completely different, something much deeper and more complex that eludes our language and yet touches each of us. Love is the great mystery of life. It pushes us to push ourselves beyond our boundaries, to be vulnerable, and to open up in ways that can both elevate and destroy us. Every person longs to experience it, and yet for many it remains incomprehensible. A mystery that is only revealed in moments and then slips away again. But is love really just a feeling? Or is it a decision, a conscious yes to someone, even in the most difficult times? It can flare up in an instant, but it can also shine steadily for years. She is gentle and passionate, calm and stormy. And this is where the real question begins. How do we know when love is real? When it is more than just a fleeting feeling, but the love that lasts. First love, a dance between innocence and intensity. The so-called youth love. Imagine it's a warm summer evening and the air is filled with a carefree lightness that can only be felt in youth. In the midst of this time of departure, of new beginnings, you meet someone and suddenly everything feels different. Your heart beats faster, the world around you seems to stand still, and the moment your eyes meet burns into your soul like a fiery bolt. For the first time you feel an irrepressible longing, a crackling sensation that you have never experienced before. This is first love, and it grabs you with such force that you almost think you can't breathe without it. It is the love that catches us off guard, that draws us in without us having even an ounce of control over it. It is love that shows us the unvarnished truth about ourselves for the first time. And that's exactly why it is so unforgettable, so intense and at the same time so fleeting. The first encounter, where fairy tales begin. First love often comes into our lives like a gentle breeze, but it quickly develops into a storm of emotions. Most of the time, it happens at a time when we are still discovering ourselves, when the world seems infinitely large and we believe that everything is possible. This first love is often unexpected. It manifests itself in the classroom, in a chance meeting at a party, or even in the park on an ordinary afternoon. But what sets it apart is the feeling as if time stood still for a moment. Talking to this person is like an escape from reality, a conversation that should never end. The smallest touches, a chance hand contact or sharing a laugh over something banal, feel like experiencing something big, something meaningful. It is a love born of idealism that makes us believe that it could last forever. At this stage, we believe that the feeling that flows through us is unique, that no one has ever loved like we do before. The ideal and the illusion. In this youthful love, a world of fantasy emerges. We dream of a future with this person, imagine scenarios that are brimming with romance and adventure. There are no bills, no obligations, no harsh realities. Just the pure, unadulterated feeling of devotion. Everything seems possible. First love is often the perfect example of how we wish love could always be. Pure, passionate, and uncompromising. But this is exactly where the illusion lurks that makes this first love so bittersweet. It thrives on idealizations, on exaggerated expectations that hardly anyone can fulfill. The chosen one is often elevated to the ideal, almost like a character from a fairy tale. Small flaws are either ignored or romanticized because we want this love to be perfect, just as we imagined it to be in our dreams. The intensity of feelings. First love isn't just sweet, it's also overwhelming. No other feeling in life hits us as hard as falling in love for the first time. It's a kind of emotional explosion in which your heart beats rapidly, your thoughts constantly revolve around the person you love, and you almost feel sick with longing when they're not around. It's the first time we experience the highs and lows of love, and the experience is burned deep into our memories. For the first time we experience what it's like to miss someone so much that it almost causes physical pain. We learn what it means to want to do anything for someone just to get a smile from that person. It's a love that keeps us busy from morning to night, that sometimes doesn't let us sleep because we just can't stop thinking about that person. The lessons of first love. But as intense and magical as first love is, it often doesn't last forever. Asterisk, asterisk. And that's a good thing. Because first love teaches us so much about ourselves, about the way we love, what we want from a partner, and, perhaps most importantly, what we are willing to do, give. First love often shows us the limits of our own expectations. When the inevitable moment comes when reality meets fantasy, we realize that this love, beautiful as it was not made to last. But this realization does not bring bitterness, but rather maturity. We begin to understand that love is not just the flights of romance, but also the acceptance of imperfections. And this realization prepares us for future relationships. The painful farewell. When first love breaks, when first love ends, it often feels like the world is collapsing. The pain is deep because it is the first time we are experiencing what it means to lose someone we love so much. It is a feeling of emptiness that we have never known before. Suddenly, all the dreams and plans we had for this love seem to be in shambles. But this pain is also part of the lesson. First love shows us that the heart can break, but it can also heal. Over time, the pain becomes less, and what remains are the memories, those sweet, innocent moments that will stay with us forever. Because no matter how much time passes, first love remains a part of us, deeply rooted in our hearts. Why first love remains unforgettable? What makes first love so unforgettable is not only its intensity, but also what it represents. It is a symbol of youth, of the time of innocence when everything seemed possible. It reminds us of a phase in our lives when we had no emotional scars, when we loved without reservation and without fear. First love will never be forgotten because it showed us for the first time what our hearts are capable of. She is the first spark that lit the fire of romance in us. And even if we experience many other loves afterwards, the first love always remains something special, like the first sunrise you ever saw. No other sunrise will ever be exactly like this, but each successive one is made brighter by the memory of the first. First love, a chapter of life that never fades. First love is the beginning of a journey that challenges and shapes us many times throughout our lives. It is the moment when we feel vulnerable for the first time we place our souls in the hands of another, without the fear of what might happen. This love shows us how beautiful and also how fragile love can be. And while it often doesn't last, it stays with us forever. It shapes our understanding of love, influences how we approach future relationships, and gives us a blueprint for what it means to truly love. Even if the first love is not the last love, it is still the one we remember again and again. Not just because of the person, but because of the feeling it aroused in us. Because in the end, it's not the duration that counts, but the intensity with which we loved in that moment. The second love, the stormy journey to self-discovery. Imagine you already have a love behind you. You know what it feels like to give your heart to someone. You've been through the ups and downs of a relationship. You lost your first love, and as your heart healed, you learned that love isn't always as magical as you imagined it to be when you were young. But then, completely unexpectedly, she appears. Second love. This time it feels different, more intense, more mature. But no matter how promising it starts, this love presents you with trials you could never have imagined. It is a love that shapes you by breaking you, a love that teaches you more about yourself than you ever thought possible. Falling in love a second time, the stormy beginning. Second love often hits us at a time in life when we have learned more about ourselves and the world around us. We are no longer the naive young people who romanticize everything about love. We have had experiences, perhaps suffered injuries, and have become more aware of the complexity of human relationships. But that's exactly what makes second love so different, so intense, and sometimes so destructive. During this phase, we often find ourselves drawn to people who speak to us on a deeper, more emotional level. The butterflies in your stomach that fluttered innocently during your first love turn into wild storms during your second love. It's a love that stirs you up, makes you question who you are and what you really want. And that's exactly what makes it so incomparable. It challenges you, forces you to face your deepest fears and longings. The complexity of second love. Second love is rarely easy. It is a love that is not satisfied with the superficial dreams of first love. Instead, it delves deep into the corners of your soul that you may not have known before. She confronts you with your insecurities, your fears, your weaknesses. It's like this love holds up a mirror and forces you to take a closer look. Often this love feels like a constant ups and downs. There are moments of overwhelming passion when you give yourself completely to the person and believe that you have finally found the one or the one. But then there are also the phases of doubt, pain, and uncertainty. Second love is not just a dance, it is a battle, an internal and external conflict in which you are constantly being tested. The appeal of the unattainable. A typical feature of second love is that it often happens with people who are difficult to reach in some way. Maybe it's someone who seems emotionally unavailable, who is struggling with their own demons, or who is simply not as available as you would like. It is precisely this distance, this difficulty in completely winning the other person over, that gives second love its charm, but also its torment. There are moments when you feel like this love is all you ever wanted. You fight for it, give it your all because you believe it's worth it. But at the same time, doubts gnaw at you. Doubts about whether this relationship is really as good for you as you tell yourself. And it is precisely in this tension that the core of second love lies. It is both desire and frustration, both devotion and disappointment. The lessons of second love. What makes second love so defining are the lessons it teaches us about ourselves. While first love teaches us primarily about romance and the pure joy of falling in love, second love forces us to take a deeper look at ourselves. It shows us what we really want from a relationship and what we are willing to give, and it often reveals what we can't bear. Second love teaches us that love is not just about passion, but also about understanding, compromise, and sometimes letting go. Sometimes second love holds a mirror up to us and forces us to face the hard truths about ourselves. It can show us where our emotional wounds have not yet healed, where we are still holding on to old patterns, or where we are getting in our own way. The toxic side of second love. Unfortunately, second love can also be dangerous. Sometimes it traps us in relationships that aren't good for us because we believe we need that intense connection to feel complete. We cling to the heights of passion and ignore the warning signs that this relationship may be doing us more harm than good. A toxic dynamic can arise in which love is no longer free and easy, but is instead characterized by insecurities, power struggles, and dependencies. It is not uncommon for second love to pull us into relationships where we lose ourselves. We are willing to give up parts of ourselves just to keep the other person because we believe that without them, our life would be incomplete. It is a love that tests us, that challenges us to defend our own identity, or lose it, the inevitable end. When second love falls, the pain that comes with the end of a second love is often deeper and more pervasive than that of a failed first relationship. Why? Because we invested more this time, because we believed that this love might be the right one that lasts forever. But when the second love breaks up, we realize that even this intense connection won't last forever. Losing that love feels like a part of ourselves is breaking, but it is precisely in this pain that the potential for growth lies. Second love teaches us that we are strong enough to get back up even after the deepest emotional wounds. It forces us to confront our own emotional boundaries and figure out what we really want from a relationship. Why second love is so important. Second love may be turbulent and painful, but it is priceless. She teaches us what it means to really fight for something, but also when it's time to let go. It shows us the dark side of love and helps us to better understand who we are and what we need. While first love reveals to us the sweet innocence and magic of falling in love, second love is the moment when we learn that love is not just fairy tales. She shows us the hard work it takes to maintain a relationship and the sacrifices we sometimes have to make, but also when we should protect ourselves. The second love, the path to self-discovery. Second love is the turning point in our emotional life. It is the moment when we not only learn how to love someone else, but also how to love ourselves. She challenges us to recognize our own limitations and makes us think deeper about the true nature of relationships. Even though second love often causes us more pain than joy, it leaves deep marks in our hearts and shapes us into the person we become over the course of our lives. It gives us the tools to act wiser and more maturely in future relationships and teaches us that true love is not just about passion, but also about acceptance, compromise, and sometimes the courage to let go. Because in the end, it is this love that shows us that we must remain true to ourselves, even if it means losing someone we once loved so much. The third love, the calm after the storm. It is said that the third love comes into our lives like a gentle rain after a stormy day. It is not the blazing fire that consumes everything, nor the violent storm that pushes us to our emotional limits. It is the love that surprises us in an unexpected, almost silent way. The love that finds us exactly when we have stopped looking for it. After the intense ups and downs of the first two loves, the third comes like a breeze that doesn't knock us over, but quietly envelops us. But it is precisely this simplicity that makes it so important. The third love is the love that reminds us that relationships don't have to be perfect to be right. It is the result of all our experiences, our losses, our learning processes. And precisely because we carry the scars of the past with us, we recognize in third love the beauty of the real, the unadulterated. The unexpected arrival of third love. Third love often comes when we least expect it, maybe after a long period of solitude where we focused more on ourselves, or after a painful breakup where we thought we could never be that close to someone again. The third love enters our lives not with the force and passion that we know from the second love, but with a quiet confidence that surprises us more than overwhelms us. At first, it may seem inconspicuous to us. It may lack the dramatic sizzle we're used to in previous relationships. But that is precisely her strength. It is not there to shock us, but to calm us. It doesn't demand grand gestures or passionate fights. Instead, it grows slowly and steadily. And before we know it, it has taken root, deep and strong. The love of acceptance. What makes third love so special is its acceptance. In contrast to first love, in which we still harbor illusions of perfection, or second love, in which we often try to change the other person or adapt ourselves, third love is characterized by a deep serenity. We accept each other, with all our rough edges, our quirks and mistakes. This love does not have high demands. It does not require us to be anyone other than who we really are. Instead, it encourages us to be ourselves. We no longer have to act, fulfill roles, or live up to expectations. In third love, we learn that true intimacy comes when we drop our mask and show ourselves as we really are. The love of small gestures. The third love is not necessarily the one that thrives on the big dramatic moments. It's the little things that make this love so special. It's the daily gestures, laughing together at breakfast, holding hands on a walk, or silently understanding when words are not necessary. In this love, everyday life is not boring, but comforting. We find joy in the little routines of life because we know we are sharing them with someone who understands and respects us. It is love that shows us that true happiness does not lie in constant excitement, but in constancy and trust, maturity and patience. What third love teaches. Third love often comes at a time in life when we know ourselves better. We know what we want, but above all, we know what we don't want. We have learned that compromise is important, but we also know that we cannot give up ourselves for someone. Patience plays a central role in third love. We have left the urgency of the first love behind us and overcome the dramas of the second. Now it's no longer about finding someone who fulfills all our desires, but rather someone with whom we can build a real partnership. We know that a relationship isn't always easy, but we're willing to work on it without the constant doubts about whether it's the right decision. Silent strength, why third love remains. While the first two loves are often characterized by emotional intensity, the third love has a quiet strength. It's not out to knock us down or constantly test us. Instead, it is stable, reliable, like a rock in the surf. This love is not accompanied by the constant fear that it might break. It gives us a sense of security that we may have missed in previous relationships. The third love is the one that lasts because it is not built on fleeting emotions or unfulfillable expectations. It is based on deep mutual understanding, respect, and trust. In this love, we learn that it's not about constantly having butterflies in your stomach or hearing dramatic vows of love. It's about having someone we can rely on, in the good times, but especially in the bad times. Love without drama. What sets the third love apart from the first two is the lack of drama. In this phase of our lives, we are no longer looking for the big cinematic moments, but rather for stability and calm. We no longer feel like constant conflict or relationships that drain us of more energy than they give us. Instead, we long for a love. At the end of our journey through the three great loves of our life, we realize that each of them is indispensable in its own way. The first love, innocent and full of dreams, shows us what it means to open your heart wide and surrender to the magic of falling in love. The second love, stormy and challenging, forcing us to question ourselves, lose ourselves, and ultimately emerge stronger. And the third love, that comes to us unexpectedly and quietly, is the one that teaches us what stability, trust, and true partnership mean. Each of these loves leaves its mark, shapes our heart and soul, and in the end we understand. There is no one right love. There are three loves, and each of them is right in its time. They reflect our development, show us who we are, and prepare us to ultimately find the love that lasts. Love for ourselves and for another person, without drama, without masks. Because true love is not a moment, not a spark. It is a constant growth, a deep understanding, and the ability to love the other in all their imperfections. True love, the third love, is the culmination of all our experiences, the silent confirmation that we have arrived, not just with someone else, but above all with ourselves. And when we reach that point, we know everything we went through was worth it. So ask yourself, are you ready to experience all these facets of love and make the most of it? Whether you're just discovering your first love in the chaos of your second, or waiting for the quiet power of love. Third, wait. Every love has its own meaning. Give love the chance to shape you, grow you, and ultimately lead you to what really matters. Dare to start the journey, because only those who love truly live.